What if I told you that you could design and live the life that you want on your own terms? Would you do it? Would you take a leap into the unknown? Or would you settle for a life of limits, a life of safety but lacking true meaning? Zephan Moses Blacksburg here, and I'm on a journey to help you ignite your inner passions, let go of your fears, and get more out of life. Will you join me and make this year your year of purpose? Welcome to the Year of Purpose podcast. Hey there everyone, Zephan Blacksburg, and we are back again with another episode of the Year of Purpose podcast. And today I have an absolutely inspiring and amazing guest with me. I have Kenyon Salo, and just the list of things that he has done just blows my mind. So just a couple things that he's done. He's the founder of The Bucket List Life. He's an author, a speaker, a student. He's trained over 20,000 people. He's a social media expert, a professional skydiver with over 4,000 skydives, Denver Broncos skydive team, 300 plus base jumps, photographer, adventure video creator. I mean, that is absolutely amazing. I wish that I could do, well, I know that I can do, but I wish that I had already done half the things he's already accomplished. So I know that I have some things to add to my bucket list personally. So Kenyon, thank you so much for being here today.
I'm so stoked to be here. This is awesome. Thanks for having me on board.
Yeah. So I can't help but look at this list and think, life probably wasn't always this way. At some point in time, there had to be like a transformation of like, I'm just going to go out there and do all these amazing things. Maybe tell me a little bit about how you got into the bucket list life and if there was any like one point in time that helped you start that.
Well, the bucket list life, as with just about anything for someone's life, when they really find the thing that they're looking for me, what it did is it came down to the basic fact that it's an amalgamation of everything I've done. But the key thing that's different with the bucket list life is it's not me going, hey, check out all the things that I've done. Instead, I want to bring people in. I want to celebrate them and say, look at what we're doing. So it's about the we. So we bring people in and say, hey, what are you passionate about? What do you love to do? What haven't you done yet? Or what can you share with us that you have done? And those are the things that really get people fired up because it's about sharing life's experiences. When we share life's experiences with other people, that's really the only thing that truly matters on this planet is sharing those things. And that's what it's all about. So if we rewind and go back to where my life was when I was a kid, I was always jumping my bike the farthest that I could, and then my skateboard and doing those types of things. And definitely had an adventure side to me, jumping off train trestles into the river, doing the gymnastic stuff and the flips and anything that would challenge me physically. That was something that I really enjoyed. Moved through professional snowboarding, onto skydiving and base jumping. And what I found is that no matter what endeavor that I'm in, I always wanted to see if I could find that thing that was just out of my reach. Mm-hmm. So an example is like, hey, trying to get onto the team for the Denver Broncos team and jump into the stadium. That was something that was just out of my reach for many years until I eventually hit that goal. And now I'm part of a very exclusive team of only 6 members that jumps into those football games every home game. That's an example. And so that's what led me to the bucket list life. But the bucket list life has only been around a year. And really, the difference there is all the things that I've done and then said, you know what, how can I help others? Mm-hmm. And that's something that's really missing in a lot of things in today's society is how do we help others achieve what they want and really just showcase them?
So I have to imagine with this many jumps, both out of planes and base jumps and, jumping into stadiums, at the very beginning, you're getting ready for your first jump, there has to be some sort of a fear or at least a thought in your mind that, hey, maybe this is kind of crazy. How has that kind of transferred to the rest of your life and all the things that you've done? Like, how have you converted that into like an energy you can use to just jump out there and do something?
Well, sure. My very first skydive was in a small plane, a Cessna 172, fits 4 people plus the pilot. And actually, it was 3 people plus the pilot. And there, as I'm getting out of the plane, I'm thinking, this is the craziest thing I've ever done. The doors open, and they're making the turn on to final, and I'm reaching under the seat, holding on to the seat of the pilot because I didn't want to fall out. But that's actually part of the point, is to fall out of the aircraft. But once I got out of the plane and I did my skydive, of course, I realized that I was exactly where I was supposed to be. This is what I love to do. And of course, landing on the ground afterwards, I said, oh, okay, I get it. I understand what's going on. And of course, really what fear is, it's just lack of knowledge. As we learn things, we then gain knowledge, and that takes away the fear. So a lot of people have fear around something because they have lack of knowledge. And what I do is I use that as energy. I understand that standing on the edge of a cliff, maybe 3,000 feet, and I'm about to do a base jump, and I know that the potential is I could die. I don't want to die. That's not my choice. But I know the potential's there. And then I say, well, what are the things that I've done to mitigate that? I've packed my gear well. I have proper training. I know the conditions. And I know myself that I can do the things that I need to do to preserve my life. So I understand that energy, and it fuels me up. That thing that you said, like, how do you deal with that energy? Well, I use it to be able to get over the things that I need to do. And fear is such a tough word, but it's more of like a challenge for me. I think, can I do this? Yes, I can. Now I can do it. I'm going to do it no matter what. And if, look, something goes wrong, I'll solve that. And I'll just keep solving until, I can't solve those things anymore, no matter what I'm doing.
Right, right. So there has to be reason behind a lot of the things that you're doing here, and we talk a lot about purpose. What exactly is your reason for doing all of these things? Like, if you could sum it up in kind of like an elevator pitch of like, bucket list life, this is why we're here and why we're doing this. What is that to you?
So if I take the things that I do personally in terms of the physical challenges, the purpose of that is for me to understand what I'm capable of, but additionally, really feeling like I'm living every moment of this life. Now, the purpose of the bucket list life has that, but it's really about sharing those experiences. It's about sharing those experiences with others. Now, if I go and I share this experience with someone else, they may not jump out of an airplane. They may not do base jumping or do some of these other things that I do, but they'll live vicariously through that process. But then the thing is I can ask them, hey, what is something that you love to do, or what's something on your bucket list? And so if I find that thing that they're passionate about that they can share with me, then I have a new experience. I have something that I've never done. And then we see if we can bring more people in on that. So someone might say, hey, you know what? I'm super passionate about climbing 14ers, which are 14,000 foot mountains here in Colorado. I say, well, cool. I've never done a 14-footer. Can we go up there and do a 14er and have that happen? And so they get to lead the way. They get to be the leader. They get to show us the trails, the mountains, the experiences that they understand. And it's not just with me. I say, who else can we bring along? Next thing you know, there's this whole group of people that are standing on top of a 14,000 foot mountain. All of them are high-fiving, and they're saying, this is awesome. And it wasn't something that I led. It was the person that I found that I connected with and said, well, what is it that you're passionate about? And then they led it, so they had a win. And that's what it's about, is sharing those experiences and letting other people be able to have those wins.
So there's this domino effect of being able to enable other people to start living their bucket list life. And I feel like it kind of just keeps growing and growing and building until hopefully, everyone in the world is getting a chance to live life the way that they want to. Now, a lot of people who watch these videos and see the things that you've done, some of the things that I've done, some of them are stuck. They're stuck in a rut of whether it's this corporate 9-to-5 job, whether it's this cycle of not having money to fund the things that they want to do. How do we get unstuck so that we can start living a bucket list life? Like, how does that get started?
That's an excellent question, and it's one of the most common questions. And look, there are people that are working 9-to-5 that are in their passion. They found that thing that they love to do, and we celebrate those people. But there are additionally people who have just gone into a certain 9-to-5 because it's what was available to them. It was that thing that they said, okay, I'll take this for now, and it's only going to be so long until I can do the thing that I really want to do. But I say none of us knows that there's a tomorrow. It doesn't matter how I live on the edge or somebody that's chilling out at their house all the time. None of us knows if we have a tomorrow, so we have to take advantage of what happens today. And so to get unstuck, really what it comes down to is that we just have to have some sort of catalyst. So change is only going to happen when pain exceeds fear. So someone's going to have enough scenario where they're just like, you know what? I'm tired of the way I feel. I'm tired of living this life this way. I'm making a change. And when they make that change, they'll make a leap. Now, some people will say, you know what, but I don't know. I don't have the money figured out. I don't have that freedom. We call it lifestyle freedom, where it's time, location, and financial freedom. They say, well, I don't have the finances. But every person that I've talked to and every person that I've done an interview with on Skype when we've done these podcasts, what we found out is that most of them, 99% of them, didn't have that figured out. All they had to do was make the shift, and then it started to happen. The how started to happen. When people say yes, then something happens. Like just today, someone called me up and they said, hey, can you come do a short talk for this camp up in New York over on March 12th? And I looked at my schedule. It was open. I said, I'm in. And he said, okay, do you need time? I said, no, I don't need any time. Let's do this right now. And within 5 minutes, I had a plane booked. It was paid for, and I'm going to be flying to New York. And he said, wow, that was really crazy. I said, well, what are the options here? My only option here is to say yes. You called me. I have the time. I'm going to say yes. I don't know about the rest, but it's going to be a fun journey, and we'll figure it out. When I come back from it, I'll say, that was a great couple of days in New York.
So we have to go into it realizing that whatever is on the other side of this risk that we're about to take is going to be truly amazing. I mean that's the plain and simple of it. Is we have to, being scared is fine, right? Like it's totally okay to be scared. That's normal. Like jumping off of a cliff, I would be scared too. There are definitely some risks to be taken there. So that's your body naturally telling you that, hey, you should think this one through, right? Same reason if we put our hand near fire, our brain is going to tell us it's going to hurt, it's going to be hot. That all happens for a reason. Now, let me kind of jump into maybe a fear that I have and something that's kind of on my bucket list is I would like to backpack across Asia for an entire month solo. And I think it would be amazing. At the same time, I'm afraid. I was a child who was raised not vaccinated due to my parents' beliefs. So I'm afraid of things like disease and getting sick and being abroad. At the same time, I'm worried about, I run a business. I run a video production company here, and leaving that behind for a month. And then a lot of other things, from the language barrier to just this uncertainty, because I'm so used to a schedule. How could I get started on, starting this venture?
Well, the first thing is to decide. Everything happens when someone makes a decision and they make that choice that I'm going to do this. So it's like one day, that's not a decision. When you decide, when you say, hey, I'm doing it, and this is my date parameters. And you said 1 month, right? So you say, okay, July 1st, right? July 15th, whatever it is, you make that decision. That's the first leap. The second is, who can help you make this happen? This is the biggest thing, because you don't have to do this on your own. You could be solo if that's what you want and that's the experience you want. Or you could say, you know what? I'm looking for help. I'm looking for help for who can give me information or who can help me, who's done similar things, or who might want to come along that we can help each other. And when you incorporate other people, things start to accelerate really, really quickly. And that's probably one of the biggest things that I can really impress upon you or anybody that's listening is that it comes down to the fact of saying, incorporate the people around you, because people naturally want to help. There have been people who have done that. Look, you've got your fears. You've got the things that talk about not being vaccinated or the unknown or what about the money or what about your business. You know what? Throw all those things out the window. So what? If you stub your toe, big deal. If something happens to you, fine. You'll handle that along the way. But what if you get to the end of it and you go, wow, none of those things were a factor, right? What if you had not made that decision because you thought those things were going to be a factor, but the end result is they really weren't the factor? Probably the thing that's going to scare you most, you don't even know it until you encounter it once you get there, and you can't plan for that anyways.
Yeah, so there's probably our biggest fear is what's may or may not happen, first of all, and second of all, we can't even prep for that. So we kind of just have to go and do it. Let me ask you this. Do you have any adventure yet on your list, or what does your current bucket list look like? You've done a lot of things so far. Are there any major things that stick out right now that you're really trying to get done, in the next year or two?
Absolutely. I put a lot of focus into flying my wingsuit. So I've done a lot of base jumps, I've done a lot of skydives, and now I've started to do skydiving with a wingsuit. And I've upgraded wingsuits, more surface area, longer flying times. And the goal is, how can I take this and then fly this wingsuit off of a cliff? And the particular cliff is Brento, Italy.
Okay.
So I made a decision a year ago that said, I'm going to go to Italy next summer. Now it's coming up to this summer, that I'm going to fly my very first base jump wingsuit flight at Brento, Italy. So I picked the place, I picked the time. It's going to be in July. And it's after I go running of the bulls in Pamplona, Spain. Then I'll just pop over to Italy and fly it there. Now, I would love my friends to come along. There's people that are all talking about, 10 people say they want to go. I just have to assume that 9 of them are going to say, nah, I don't have the time, I don't have the money, I didn't plan right. Fine. If I have to go by myself, I will go by myself, because I know when I get there, there'll be people that I meet. There'll be people that are there. It's not like this is in the remote wilderness area. There'll be other base jumpers that are from Italy or Europe or things like that. And they'll be like, hi, how are you? What's your name? Come here, have food, and let's eat, let's talk. And it'll be like, great. And I can get all the information from them. So that's on my list. And that's, of course, for me. But of course, I'm hoping that the couple of other friends that are part of the bucket list life and that are resonating with all this, that are also skydivers and base jumpers and wingsuit flyers, that they come too, because I want to share their first wingsuit flights for base jumping with them, so we can all have that experience together. Because we said, hey, remember that day that we all did our very first flight off that 3,000 foot cliff? And be like, yeah, that was awesome. Cheers to that, right? Because it's about sharing life's experiences.
That is awesome. I look forward to seeing video clips of that. And if you need somebody to film it with a bunch of GoPros or something, I'm more than happy to bring a bunch of them with me and strap them to you and get that filmed, because that sounds like an amazing flight and an amazing journey. You've got the running of the bulls beforehand. You're probably going to be sitting on the flight home just laughing the whole way about how crazy and awesome it's been. So your life is truly amazing right now. How has your quality of life changed since starting the bucket list? And what can you say as far as how you wake up every morning now?
That's an excellent question. I'm glad you brought that up, because even though I've lived my life, if I look back and say, wow, I've done this, I've been there, I've traveled here, I met that person, those things are cool. But at the time of my life, 2013 was a super hard year for me. I was going through a relationship that wasn't serving me well, and those are my responsibilities that I take on. And eventually that relationship started to deteriorate, and I was really searching inside, like, what do I want to do with my life? What am I doing? Because I was spending time inside. I wasn't doing the things that I wanted to do. And I thought, wait a minute, there's a bucket list that I wrote 4 years ago, and let me revisit that. And as I was writing these things down at 2 in the morning on Christmas morning in 2013, again, the thing that was missing was, I don't want to do this on my own. I said, well, I want to do that with others. And then I said, well, but not everybody wants to jump in on that. I thought, well, if I help others first, like if you want love, give love. If you want laughter, give laughter. If you want happiness, then be happy and give that to the world. So I thought about this, and I thought, what if I start giving to others, and I'll probably find bucket list items that I never knew that I wanted to do, which is exactly what's happened. So my quality of life that you ask about, oh my gosh, it's ridiculous right now. Every day is an adventure, even if I'm working and doing the stuff that I need to do, whether it's a phone call or something I see, or I get to celebrate somebody else. It's always something that makes me feel fired up, and I feel great. I wake up in the morning and I'm like, whoa, man, what is going to happen today? And I go to bed at night thinking tomorrow's going to be awesome, and I'm sleeping a lot less, which is fine with me because I'm packing more into my days.
So we've talked about a lot of the things that you've accomplished, and it sounds like a really key part of the bucket list life is that you're also helping others. So, I did some research. I was looking at YouTube. That's the first place I usually go, and I saw videos of you're like rappelling off the side of a hospital in like a Spider-Man costume. You're helping an 11-year-old, overcome his fear of heights. Tell me a little bit about what some of the things are that you've done when it comes to helping others through the bucket list life.
Well, sure. So we made a post back last February about, what's on people's bucket list and how can I help? And for example, this one woman, Hallie, who had ovarian cancer that she had just gotten over, and she's like, I'm just happy to be alive. I said, well, Hallie, how can we help others? Give me something. She said, I want to see superheroes on the outside of the children's hospital. And I thought, okay, we can totally make this happen, but I didn't know how. but I just said yes, and then again, figure out the how. Well, 6 months later, the Arvada SWAT team here in Colorado, they were rappelling down the side of the hospital. They were putting their hands against the windows for these kids that are in there. And some of those kids aren't here today, that they've unfortunately passed on, but that moment that they had was one of the biggest moments of their life. And again, that was never on my bucket list. Never did I ever write down, I would like to be a part of something where superheroes rappel down the children's hospital. But looking back, I'm saying that's one of the best days of my life because it was her bucket list item and we helped make it come true. And since that time, we've done all kinds of things. And again, a lot of these videos are other people where they came to me and I said, well, what is something that you want to do? And they said, well, for example, we had Stuart who was really afraid of connecting with women. So we made a suggestion. He thought, what if I hand out roses to random women? So we helped him make that happen. We got 50 roses and he just went around handing them out. And sure enough, on the college personal boards, a girl writes, I was having a really, really hard day and this random stranger came up to me and gave me a rose and it changed everything, right? So there's no acknowledgement to exactly who it was, but the fact is he knows he changed someone's life. Look, we've got to wrestle alligators, which have been awesome. We get to skydive. We get to do these other events, helping the 11-year-old get through his fear of heights. Totally crazy day, but wonderful at the end of it. Even Fox picked that up and showed it on one of their television shows. And these are the things that we continue to think, how can we impact others' lives and how can we get information from them on how they see the world? And I think one of the most touching videos is the most recent one we did where we went to a retirement community of the people between 85 and 95 years old. And the key thing is I asked them 4 questions. One was, what was it like when you were younger? I wanted to know their stories. 2, what is something that you remember that really impacted your life, that you just really love what you did, that you're proud of? 3 is, what is something that you never got to? And then 4th is, what's some information, wisdom that you'd like to give back to anybody younger than you? The question, which was number 2, which was something you're most proud of, across the board, people who had been on this planet for 30,000 days, 90 years old, 30,000 days on this planet. And the days they remember are where they helped or volunteered or impacted someone's life. It's not that they stood in front of the Eiffel Tower. It's not that they traveled to a particular place or that they did a particular thing. It all came back to the fact when they helped others, that's what they felt inside. The second, and the wisdom that they gave back is a lot of them said, live for the now. Because you just don't know about the future. And the past, it's the past. You have to live for the moment. And here are these people that are 90, 95 years old saying these things. That says a lot to me.
So when it comes to living for the now, because I know that this is a huge personal struggle of mine, my head's always racing throughout the days with ideas and things. I've had small events where, let's just say I'm driving to a friend's house and I don't realize that 20 minutes have passed and I've been on the road and I don't even remember that I stopped at the stoplight back there. How do we stay present in the moment and really take in every ounce of everything that's going on when we do choose to make these decisions, to say yes and to take these adventures? How can I make sure that I'm truly there? Is there something I can ask myself to just ensure or to bring my mind back down to that moment?
Well, there's times and places for everything. So when you're driving or you're working out at the gym or doing things like that where it's a repetitive motion, actually that's a great place to be in the theta state. Those brain waves allow us to think. And of course, it's where it's unencumbered. There's nothing that's going to block out those thoughts. I think those are wonderful because we need that process. We need that place to be able to think. But there was a shot that just showed up on the internet of this guy who's sitting on a sailboat and he's staring at his cell phone as this big whale breaches the water. He doesn't see it. Another photographer from across the bay captures this photo of him staring at his cell phone while this whale is breaching. And you think, okay, he missed that. So there's a time and place for everything. And look, electronics are great, but they're also the one thing that's making us disconnected from the world, even though we feel like we're connected. So the opportunity is to say, hey, look, put the electronics away. If you're sitting on a sailboat, that's the time you take a look around. If you're with somebody, you give them 100% of your attention. You go on a date, leave your cell phone in the car. Do not bring it out for any reason. You don't need to, because that person is giving you their time. So give that interaction there. And those are the times where you just have to make those choices where, wait a minute, I need to be present here, or I need to think. And if you need to think and do those things, great. Set that tone, set that environment, allow yourself to do it. But don't feel bad about it, because it's those things that really help us get to the next level, right? A thinking brain is a growing brain.
Mm-hmm. So you said the bucket list life is just 1 year old. Is that true?
Yeah, just over a year old.
Just over a year old. So you've got a lot of growing to do, a lot of things that I'm sure in your bigger vision for this project. What would you like to see happen just in the next year or two, or maybe even 5 or 10 years out with the bucket list life? Where would you like it to go?
Yeah, great question. And you take, for example, some companies like Tinder, that's almost 6 years old. Uber, 5 years old. A lot of people have only heard of Uber in the past 12 months, but they're 5 years old. You take Starbucks, they've been open for 40 years. But a lot of us can only remember, like maybe in the last 10 or 15 years, we remember Starbucks kind of popping up all over the place. So it took time for them to get traction. And while we have our early adopters now, it's basically the moving to the mainstream where everybody starts to adopt it and understand it. The key thing is, what's in it for the future for us? Well, a global brand. It's a thing where people are able to connect, and that they have these different avenues to connect. So via the web, via applications on smartphones. Additionally, groups and meetups and things like that, where people can do adventures together, where it's like, hey, in Colorado, there might be 15 of us from the Bucket List Life doing a Tough Mudder, but there are 50 Tough Mudders in the world. Why not there can't be 20 people in each of those events? That's 1,000 people enjoying Tough Mudders, and that's just Tough Mudders. And then you take any activity or anything that it's an experience, could be eating, could be an adventure, could be anything that's an experience. We want people to be sharing life's experiences, and that as we are that conduit to help make that happen. And that's where people's lives will start to shift, and those people will say, I'm living the bucket list life. I live this way because I finally made the shift out of being disconnected and being in a place where I don't love my job to a place where they feel connected to the world, they feel connected to others, they get to help others, they feel alive, and they say, you know what? I am finally feeling like I've got this life figured out.
Well, I certainly can't wait to see more and more people joining in on this, living life the way that they want to. I know that for me personally, it's a process. I don't want to go out there and make it look like I have everything down, because I certainly don't. I'm not living my life to the 110% that I fully want to yet, but I'm starting to make my list. I'm starting to do some of those things, and I'm super stoked for when I get there, and when I realize that I've crossed off maybe a quarter or half of that list, and I've done all these things. Being where you are now, just to kind of round this out and bring it all full circle, is there any advice that you would want to give to your younger self with what you know right now?
Wow, what a question that is. Advice to the younger self. Well, look, when I was younger, in my 20s, I was a punk, I was a snowboarder, I was somebody who was always in it for me. And I think that's pretty common as kids are up and coming. They're saying, they're still trying to find themselves. There's a lot of insecurities and things like that. And they're saying, where's my place in the world? And I think if I could go back, I would say, you know what, how could I focus on others first? Because then I'll get everything that I need. All the times that I've hit walls in my life, or where I'm like, oh, I'm not excelling, or I haven't made that next leap, it's because I started hyper-focusing on myself, and I forgot about the outside world, and I forgot about others. And then every time I go back, because all the times in my life I've done that, that's when the acceleration and the traction and the momentum happens. And so I would say, hey, that's it. That's your answer there. It's just that little piece. Do that, and everything you desire will absolutely happen.
Good deal. I'm super stoked for everything that is ahead for you this year. I'm excited to see this huge base jump that's coming up this summer. What is the best place for people to kind of follow your adventures, get more information about you and the Bucket List Life?
Absolutely. Thebucketlistlife.com is the #1 destination. All the social media links are there, all the videos, the podcasts, our blog, all our written content. And of course, if you want to find me on Facebook, it's facebook.com/Kenyon Salo. And definitely join in on the adventures and follow. And anytime I get to learn about somebody else, because I never know, the next person that I meet might be somebody that I get to share in their life's experiences. And that fires me up.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you for taking some time out from your busy day today, and we will see you again very soon, I'm sure. I would love if I stop into Colorado to say hi to you. Let me know if you guys are doing the Tough Mudder. I did it 2 years ago. I'd love to do it again. So I'd love to join in with you guys and participate in that.
There it is. You're absolutely invited. It's in September, so come on and play. And yeah, this is going to be fun. And see, here it is. It's just already happening.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming out today. And make sure everyone who's watching and listening, check out the Bucket List Life Facebook, and we'll put the links in our show notes on www.yearofpurpose.com.
Great. Thanks so much, Zevin.
Thanks, man. You've probably heard me talk about designing a life that you actually want to live. You might have even heard about my travels or experiences and thought to yourself, yeah, I do want to do that. Eventually, someday I'll probably do it, and my guess is that you've been thinking about doing it for a long time. So I want to tell you this: stop thinking. Your time is right now. You don't need any more time, you don't need any more info. You don't need to keep putting it off and planning for the perfect time, because the truth of the matter is this: you could be the person who sits around and thinks about living a better life, or you can be the person that decides that today is the day that you're going to actually do it, and I want that for you. Because you already have what it takes. You've got a fire inside. Even if you can't see it right now, it's lit, but you need to open yourself up to the possibilities and throw a couple logs into the flames. So join me and the Year of Purpose tribe by subscribing to our YouTube channel and iTunes podcast. And if you really like us, please leave a review. This is Zephan Moses Blacksburg, and I can't wait to see you again on the Year of Purpose podcast.